Other options, we've heard about the Redskins. Do we even know what they're doing at quarterback yet? I don't think AB's going to want to go there.
Right. Could you imagine Mark Sanchez throwing him the ball? My goodness, that would be. I could see Antonio Brown just grabbing the ball himself and saying, you know what, I'll throw it to myself. We'll wildcat this or something like that.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Donut Bag, part of the Pod Hub Network. In this episode, I welcome, for the first time, Melanie Friedlander from SteelersDepot.com to talk all things Steelers, cover a wide range of subjects. Some of them are even football related. The Donut Bag starts right now.
Okay, lots going on with the Steelers this offseason. Some of it actually good, maybe. With me to talk about it is Melanie Friedlander. She's at Girl Surgeon on Twitter from SteelersDepot.com. Welcome, Melanie.
Joey, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited. Like I told you before, you're awesome on Twitter. You have great information and great opinions. So excited to have you on.
Thanks. I'm just another obsessed Steelers fan.
Well, there's a lot of them. So the big news, I'd say, in the past week or so is it seems like after the big summit with Antonio Brown and Rooney and the Steelers management, it seems like Antonio Brown has calmed down. And maybe you think maybe that could have been an act, that could have been him pretending to be crazy so that the Steelers, his plan was maybe to release them or something?
After all the time we spent watching his antics on Instagram and Twitter, I'm at the point where I'm convinced that it was all an act. Antonio Brown is an incredibly smart guy. He knows how to work social media better than anybody, with the possible exception of Juju Smith-Schuster. And I think this was an act from the start. I think he had a goal in mind, and I think he's very close to achieving it.
Yeah. And, people are ripping Rooney and Colbert for meeting Antonio Brown in his house or whatever. And it's like, oh, you're just giving in to him. It's like, I don't think so. I think the purpose of that meeting was to say, listen, I don't care what you do. You're not going to get released. And by the way, you can't pick where you go. You can't negotiate a trade. So good luck with that. No matter what you do, nothing's going to change. And notice after that, he's quieted down.
Absolutely. His Instagram the last couple of days has been Ed Chapo meals and AB workouts without saying anything. It's been pure bliss. I have absolutely no doubt that the conversation with Rooney when they were behind closed doors was pretty much settle down with the antics and the shenanigans because it's lowering your trade value. And if we don't get good value, you are coming right back to Pittsburgh next year. We're not releasing you. Why would they? They're out $21 million regardless. It'd be crazy to release him.
Right.
And we're not trading you without good value. So cut out the nonsense. And I think that message was received. Incredibly necessary for the Steelers to control the trade and not let his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, or AB pursue the trade parameters on their own, because the Steelers will then lose control of the situation. Although I have a feeling Drew Rosenhaus, in speaking with teams about other clients, may be having sidebar conversations.
Sure. And I'm kind of okay with Rosenhaus getting involved as long as it gets the Steelers the best deal. I don't care who all gets involved. I mean, I know it they say it sets a bad precedent. Like, oh, you're just letting players. This is going to be like the NBA. You just let players decide where they want to go. And I guess, but this is kind of a unique situation. I mean, you're talking about one of the best players in the game, so yeah, I think this is kind of a unique situation.
Unique, yes, but perilous in terms of setting a precedent. I mean, yeah. AB is, obviously it's not a news story to say he's the hardest worker on the team. He's a practice worker. He shows up, he performs, he's, an amazing competitor. So, not to discredit anything he does, but the antics of the last week and, skipping practices and making himself unavailable to the point where Tomlin had to sit him for the game, just to create this chaos is something that the Steelers can never have again. I would suspect that new contracts will be written with clauses to address this. It wouldn't surprise me if this was part of the next CBA, where it came up in conversation. But in the meantime, I don't know who would be the next person to act out. God help us if Juju goes down this road. But wide receivers become divas when they want to get paid. And it's entirely possible that this could happen again if they don't manage this situation correctly. So they can't just let AB get everything he wants, or it will look like the obvious way to behave the next time somebody wants a similar.
Right. Providing a template. What do you think will change in the next CBA? I didn't follow that.
I don't want to strike, but I think that's what it's going to take. And I really want to see the players get better protection in their contracts. I think the way that the franchise tag treats them is not good. I mean, you can say that Le'Veon Bell should have showed up. You can say he should have showed up when he said he was going to show up. But the reality is he performed incredibly well in his rookie contract. He was ready to get paid a good chunk of money on a long-term deal. And the franchise tag really limits those players when they're in the prime of their career. And I think that the players really need to negotiate better situations for themselves in making those contracts, in minimizing the tags. And if that happens, then an AB type situation may not ever be necessary. Although, just imagine for one moment, if this was really all about the money, what if AB had just gone to Mr. Rooney and, just the two of them, man to man, and said, hey, I know I'm not due more guaranteed money, but I'd really like some. Maybe this could all have been avoided. That's the one thing that just kills me.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm just in, it's just so sad that it got to as bad as it got. And, I don't think we'll ever know the full story, but geez, it's just sad that it had to come to this. But yeah, I just don't understand how the NFL Players Association, they just have the worst contract out of all the sports. I mean, who is it? Kirk Cousins had a fully guaranteed deal last offseason, and they made such a big deal about that. Every contract in every other sport is like fully guaranteed. And in football, that's a big deal. It's like, in this Le'Veon Bell thing. Yeah, the guy was just trying to get money, and look what has happened. He's been held back for the past 2 years, and possibly if the Steelers wanted to, they could have put the transition tag on him and hampered him for a third year in a row. And it's crazy. I mean, I don't understand why the players just allow the contract to be so not in their favor.
I don't think that the players really saved up for a strike, and I think there was a lot of pressure on the NFLPA to get the deal done because the players weren't ready to finance their lives without the paychecks coming in. I have to believe that's why they caved. And you look at reps like Ramon Foster and veteran players who are retired like Charlie Batch, and they're really giving players good advice at this point. And I hope that disseminates throughout the league to a point where the players have been putting money in the bank and they can, force a sit out if they have to. Obviously, I don't want there to be a strike. I would miss football. Whatever nonsense goes on in the NFL, I love this sport. But I do want to see the players get a better deal next time.
Yeah. It's just such a bad deal for them. And yeah, hopefully they will. And I mean, you'd have to think if they did go on strike, it might be the owners that cave. I mean, imagine, yeah, it might hurt us to not see football in the fall, and it might hurt the players a little bit. But imagine how much money the owners wouldn't be making. Although I'll bet they have some kind of clauses in those TV contracts they would still get paid or something like that. Or I think I've seen that in the past. So maybe they wouldn't be hurting so much, but still, it might be the owners that cave for once.
Yeah, right. I mean, the TV contracts are above my pay grade, but it would be interesting to see how it plays out. Yeah. Having said that, and players need support and get good contracts, I'm not linking that to AB here. He's been paid very well, and the fact that it does seem in retrospect that this really was all about the money, I'm sorry, I don't respect the way he behaved.
It is terrible when somebody signs a long-term deal and then at some point in the deal decides, I'm outperforming this deal, so I want a new deal. Like, but you signed it. Why did you sign what was a 6-year deal or whatever? Why didn't you sign a lower deal if you thought you were going to outperform it? So, yeah, that would have been bad. I mean, we've seen players hold out even though they're under contract, so not good. But where do you think Antonio Brown might end up?
Oh, I checked with my Magic 8 Ball, and it has no clue. I mean, I think we know AB's not going to an AFC North team. I think it would be shocking to see them send him to New England. I'm hoping they don't send him to the Colts. The Colts had a really good season, and they're only getting better. Andrew Luck really seems to have recovered well from his shoulder surgery. And I think with AB, they could be a very dangerous team next year. I mean, if I had my druthers, I would say don't send him to any AFC team. I'm not sure there's an AFC team that is an option for the Steelers from a competitive standpoint who has the cap space and the desire. Everybody keeps talking about the Jets. It'll be very interesting to see if the Jets make a play for him. I could see them going for Le'Veon Bell before they go for AB. And I wonder how challenging it would be for the Jets to continue to develop Sam Darnold as their quarterback with AB kind of jabbing him on a regular basis, get me my targets and whatnot. You saw how frustrated AB got when he was playing with Michael Vick and with Landry Jones as the Steelers. And I can only imagine that's going to be that much worse with, AB running routes with Sam Darnold under center. Not that Sam can't be a great franchise quarterback. I don't know him well enough, and I don't know his play well enough to say, but I think that might be a precarious move for the Jets if they're really trying to develop him as a young quarterback.
So
obviously, I'd like to see AB go to the NFC. The spiteful girl in me wants him to go to a team in a small market where he doesn't have primetime games and he doesn't have a good quarterback, and he suddenly realizes how good he had it in Pittsburgh. But most importantly, I'd like to see the Steelers get a decent, pick out of this. I've seen people talk about the Bears as a possible landing spot, and that's really interesting to me because I do think that Mitch Trubisky is a good enough quarterback and, has a couple of years under his belt to probably handle AB. And again, that's a team that, is really on the rise. So if AB's demanding being traded to a team that has potential to win, that could be a very interesting landing spot to me. Other options, we've heard about the Redskins. Do we even know what they're doing at quarterback yet? I don't think AB's going to want to go there.
Right. Could you imagine Mark Sanchez throwing him the ball? My goodness, that would be. I could see Antonio Brown just grabbing the ball himself and saying, you know what, I'll throw it to myself. We'll wildcat this or something like that. Yeah, and that's the big question is, how is he going to do with another quarterback and another team? I mean, he and Ben have such a great rapport. And I mean, I hear about these things of he kind of doesn't run the greatest routes and he kind of does his own thing. And that's why, Ben pump fakes a lot because he thinks maybe he's going one way, but he's actually going another way. So he has to adjust, quickly. How is he going to do with another team? I think at first he'll do great. I think he'll be the model citizen because I'm sure he's heard so many people say, oh, this, he's a monster. He's a locker room cancer. He's a horrible teammate. So I think he'll behave at first, but yeah, it depends on the situation. Like if he goes to a team with a young quarterback, how are they going to handle that? Because I think a lot of it also is that you mentioned the diva wide receiver. A diva wide receiver demands the ball at all times. And how is a team going to handle